All right, welcome once again to the Fragments of Silicon reviews. Right, I hope you had a good Thanksgiving holiday, whoever might be listening to this. I had a reasonably good one. Granted, I was rather cranky that day, but that was due to a lack of sleep. My sleep schedule's been kind of off lately. But that's neither here nor there. Anyway, so we have four games as usual, and you might notice something a bit different this week. Indeed, as we announced, I believe, not last week, last broadcast of reviews or the show, one of those, we said we would be experimenting to bring the game audio into the equation because, for, I don't know, as long as we have been doing these reviews, we've been doing them in silence. And, we're trying different things in order to see if that can gin up the numbers a bit. Nothing else. Maybe improve the presentation a bit. Mind you, it might be a bit of a learning process since, we're used to having the audio muted. So hopefully things can be separated, if you will, nicely. That might also depend on the game and the settings of it.
Yeah, because I don't have a decent mixer set up.
Yeah. That might be another thing that Mac has in his eternally changing setup. If nothing else, he seems to rebuild his computer streaming apparatus every week. Because I think he just did it again. But once again, that's neither here nor there. Anyway, first up is the Pinball Wizard. And yes, it is the Pinball Wizard, not just Pinball Wizard. Granted, I think that is the, Pinball Wizard is the name of a Who song, if I'm remembering correctly.
One of those bands from back in the day.
Mm-hmm. So they might be just calling it the Pinball Wizard to avoid legal troubles.
Probably. Would not shock me.
Yeah. The Pinball Wizard. In this pinball dungeon crawler, your goal is to dash, hurl, and flip your way to the top of the tower castle. Level up your skills, loot treasure, and fight monsters in this cozy single-player game. Explore and discover the key to each room. Restore the power of the eye, and bring peace back to the lands. So yeah, this describes itself as a hybrid pinball game, and it's hybridized with a dungeon crawler, I guess in a fairly literal sense. Okay, first of all, I will say that pinball hybrids of other genres, they're not new. In fact, this is an idea that's I can extend all the way back to at least 1990 with the release of Pinball Quest, which was a hybrid of pinball and JRPG. And that was released on the Nintendo Entertainment System. So, no, adding flippers to your game isn't necessarily pure innovation. But
more recently, it reminds me of that one. Was it Tumbleseed?
Could be, though that wasn't pinball.
No, it wasn't pinball, but it was a similar idea of where you have a overworld that you maneuver through very unconventional methods.
Right. The game I'm thinking of in terms of modernity is Yoku's Island Express, which we have never covered on the show, but it's like a platform game combined with a pinball. But this isn't that either. Also, this is not a roguelike. I was genuinely surprised when I found out that the levels were, at the very least, not procedurally generated.
Actually shocked.
Yeah. Because, like, I will say that the levels don't exactly feel handmade, but I think that's more of a reflection of the overall blandness of the design. More often than not. Not every level.
Lizard guy's cute.
Yeah, not every level suffers from this. But, this game isn't exactly a looker in terms of the environment. Once again, that is an intentional design choice, but, it is there. And yeah, it's like, you're not so much controlling an actual pinball as, well, a wizard who has a pinball-shaped head.
And difficulty moving around on his own, apparently.
Well, I mean, when you have a head that's, a good size bigger than your body, it's a wonder that you can move at all. Now,
true.
Like he can actually get around on his feet.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that is fairly impressive.
Hello, Raiders. We are reviewing the Pinball Wizard.
Yeah, and this week we have music.
Hopefully.
I mean,
I don't really hear it, but
it is kind of low, but
yeah, I will say that the music here is fairly muted. It's in keeping with the idiom of the game. It's very, kind of Sorcerer's Apprentice. Kind of low-key chimes and that sort of instrumentation.
Quieter than you'd expect of an actual pinball machine, which are notoriously loud and
boisterous,
dingy.
Yeah, I'm like, this game is not loud in any sense of the word, if I'm being honest. Like, because pinball games are not just loud in their, design and their noise-making abilities, but their presentation overall is usually fairly loud. Because, you got to stand out in the arcade.
Mm-hmm.
This game being a pinball hybrid affair doesn't need to do that.
And also designed to be played on a personal computer that is personal and a computer.
Yeah. I'm not exactly sure if this game is on other systems, but I'd have to check that, because I wouldn't be surprised if this is at least on the Nintendo Switch.
Mm-hmm.
Feels like the kind of game.
Again, it's not on a coin-op platform. Although if they invent a coin-op Nintendo Switch, that would be interesting.
Yeah. And I will say right now, there we go. It's on the Nintendo Switch. Yes, I'm like, because I can predict the indie release schedule pretty accurately. It's like, it's pretty much like, it's gonna be like, your most common is going to be the PC and or Nintendo Switch, because that's where these things tend to do the best. And maybe if Microsoft and or Sony has reached out, it's going to be a Sony or Microsoft showcase title for one reason or another. Anyway, getting back to the game itself. The Pinball Wizard, I will say right now, is definitely more hybridization title than actual pinball title. Okay, yes, it's got the basic mechanics here, but this game absolutely would not work as a functional pinball table. You'll notice, like, in the overall aesthetics, it's got more the accoutrements of a pinball game than it looking like an actual pinball game with other hybrid elements. Like, I'd say it's the dungeon crawler game with pinball elements than the other way around.
I don't know, it looks each individual room looks a little bit more like a really small, terrible pinball table. I'm comparing it in my head to, like, Sonic Spinball.
Right, I get that. Like I said, it's not completely divorced from pinball aesthetics, just, more divorced than I think a pinball enthusiast might like to have that.
Mhm.
Like, that being said, how the game plays, it's alright. Like, it plays decently, and it's worth noting that you quickly gain a couple of you could not do this in actual pinball tables magical effects.
Unless you happen to be a moderately powerful telekinetic.
Right. And they don't exist.
You don't know that.
We are not getting into this. But yeah, you can see also your goal isn't to get a high score or anything. It's to kill the enemies dead until you get the key and get into the door. Though I will say, this game is nice enough to avoid the dreaded. I'm not sure if there's a term for it here, but I'll borrow it from the Brick Breaker genre. The last block syndrome.
Uh-huh.
That is to say, you're not spending goddamn half an hour getting into the door.
Yeah, that thing where you're playing breakout / whatever, and that there's one block that you just can't get the goddamn angle for.
Yeah. If you get the key, you have 45 seconds to get into the door, or it will move you on to the next level automatically. Now, you might be asking, okay, so why would you want to get into the door? And the answer is, if you get into the door, you get healing.
Ah.
Yes.
Although there also look like there are healing buckets.
Yes, there are. Mind you, they don't heal you for much, at least initially. That is a thing that can be powered up. I'm trying to remember if it was via experience or the gold. I think it was experience. But yeah, as you gain levels, you will unlock more and more abilities. Your first two or so are the dash and the magic pinball, for lack of a better term. But others include increasing the amount of health you get from the barrels, or decreasing the amount of damage you get from falling down the pit. And yeah, that pit is going to be a bit of a problem. Because one of the things I don't like about the game is the game increases the damage you take when falling as you climb the tower. Also worth noting is, for whatever reason, you can actually kind of run out of the arena. Like, you can go so fast and you can hit a bump, like hit one of those bumpers, you can get knocked out of the fucking tower. Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of that. But yeah, overall the game plays pretty well for the hybrid. This is kind of intangible, but I will say it also never felt like it completely broke free from that basic Unity feel. But that wasn't my biggest problem with the game. Honestly, my biggest problem came at the boss level. Not exactly. Okay, the boss is way too goddamn spongy. Just flat out no. To the developers, if you listen to this, reduce the amount of hits that fucking centipede takes. He is way too fucking spongy. Because it takes like a good 3-4 hits to remove a segment. And because he's a fucking centipede, he's pretty long. It takes a good amount of hits to actually, whittle him down. And the problem is, there's a good amount of ways to get outside the arena, including the hole he opens up. Yeah. You shouldn't have done that. Should have closed, quite frankly, because it's a bit out of your control if you fall down the hole. Yeah, there's the dash, but you don't always have access to the dash because you're probably going to use it to realign your pinball wizard in order to hit the goddamn centipede. Like, either that or you're using the ball. Let's see. Other annoying enemies, the spider. Not pictured here, but oof. Every time he appears on screen, he will web one of your flippers. And yeah, you will have to hit the button to get it free. Anyway, it seemed like there was about 21 levels here. Game will keep you occupied for a few hours. And there's like an infinite mode and there's a daily challenge mode, but nothing that really extended replay value all that much, honestly. And let me see here. In terms of pricing, hang on, that's the wrong window. Here we go. The game is priced at $7.99. Yeah, I think $7.99 is a fair price for the Pinball Wizard. If we're asking for much more, I'd have an issue with it, because honestly, I don't. $10 would be the max, I'd say, but $8 is perfectly fine. And yeah, that's where I come down on this game. It's a perfectly serviceable game, but not much more than that in any particular arena. Yeah, are there any questions, comments, or concerns from my colleagues or the audience about the Pinball Wizard?
I think I'm good.
Yeah, I think I'm good.
All right. So yeah, that'll about do it for the Pinball Wizard here. Be sure to tune in after the break, as Petty Fan will be reviewing Radical Rex.